Oh my goodness, Happy New Year, Scorekeepers. It's 2025. I, I don't know how to feel about that. That's so crazy.
Yay?
I mean, that means that 2015 was a decade ago. Yeah, sit with
What?
that. Yeah, yeah. Anyway, now that we're all having our own personal existential crises, welcome to the score. This is the podcast all about the arts and culture as seen through our Black queer perspective. As always, I am Rocky Jones. I am here with my two fabulous co-hosts. First and foremost, well, not foremost. I mean, you both are equally most.
There we go.
But Dr. Lee Bynum, hello, Dr. Lee Bynum.
Hello, how are you?
Good, good. How are you?
Oh, I am here. I am the same as I was in 2024, but I am so happy that it is no longer 2024.
I have to say, I feel the same way.
Mhm.
2024 was ass.
Yes, it really, really was. But I'm excited about 2025 because as an amateur numerologist, I will say that this is a year of completion. And I think there is a lot of tomfoolery that is going to wrap itself up this year and will no longer be a thing that we are dealing with. And I am very, very happy about all of these things, even though I do not know what they are. I just think they need to happen. So
Well, the end of tomfoolery would be nice.
seems like a lot to ask for, but I'm
It-
asking for it.
well, it just seems like a big job.
Yeah.
That, that's a big job.
It's a big job, yeah. Maybe
Well,
just some of the tomfoolery, maybe not all of it, but if even, I don't know, 16.5% of it wraps itself up, I'll be a happy camper.
well, it doesn't seem like things are wrapping up here in the first couple of weeks of the year, but hopefully by the end we'll see. But of course, that other voice you heard was the lovely, the luminous, the moisturized Paige Reynolds. Hello, Paige. How are you?
Hello, hello. Hello from Parable of the Sower Times.
Yes, literally.
Yeah.
Literally, she literally predicted these LA fires. It's
As I sit
crazy.
here wearing my Octavia Butler sweatshirt. Yeah.
Hmm. Oh, and
Hmm.
and lots of love and healing prayers to all the folks out in LA.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
Hmm.
that's so scary. My God.
Oh,
But
scary. They say
yes,
water ain't even, imagine going to a fire hydrant, ain't no water coming out.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I hope y'all are safe. Y'all are
Hope
protected.
y'all are safe. Hope y'all are
Mm.
safe. But how was your 2025 so far?
Hmm.
I know we're
You
only 10
know,
days into it, but
yeah, we're only 10 days in, but I agree. It was time for 2024 to go. She was, yeah, goodbye.
she was
Goodbye.
too
Good riddance.
much. She was getting a little too wild, a little too
Too wild.
rowdy.
Yeah, yeah. So I was very ready to shed all of that. And, you know, I feel I'm trying to tell myself that the things being shooken up, you know, also presents new possibilities,
Hmm.
maybe new ways of thinking of things. Like, hey, if there's like a bunch of chaos, maybe that also means there's no rules and any personal limitations you were putting on yourself. You can get rid of them because clearly ain't no rules. So truly, that is truly how I am like trying to alchemize this moment
You
for my good.
know, I didn't think of it in those terms, but I think that's the same wavelength that I'm on, and I think you articulated it very, very well, where I'm just like going into 2025, and it's like, as the poet Sabrina Carpenter once said, my give a fucks are on vacation. And I'm just like, whatever. I'm just doing what I need to do in order to just kind of take care of myself and also reach out for, the things that I want and things that I want to try and things that I want to, bring into my life and push out of my life. And just there are some people in my orbit that have shown their entire ass. And I think, perhaps in the past I would have been like, oh, but they don't mean it. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt. And I'm just like, at this point, I'm just like, no, absolutely not.
Ain't
I
nobody got time for
remember,
that.
I remember this time in college, my freshman year, I there was this dude that I was hanging out with, and I was just a drunken mess one night and just made just a complete fool of myself. And he just like the next day I went up to him and I was just like, "Hey, I'm really sorry about last night." And he was just like, "It's fine," and then never talked to me ever again. And so, and so I'm I'm bringing that energy into 2025.
I love that. Yeah,
Wow.
it's fine. And
Was your
also
friend an
stay away
Aquarius?
from me.
I have no idea what his sign was,
Okay.
but he did have some Aquarian traits.
Yeah,
So,
because that is definitely one of
yeah.
Yep.
And like I have this Aquarius moon, so I know I have that in me. But I try to be nice. I'm not trying to be nice anymore.
them.
That's not a thing. But speaking of exciting things in 2025, Paige, I don't know if you are watching, but a new season of Drag Race just started.
I'm not
Woohoo!
watching.
You haven't seen it yet? Oh, okay. Well, today is Friday the 10th, so the second episode has not dropped yet. But I'm curiously if you have any thoughts.
I have so many thoughts. I have so many thoughts. I am very excited about Toots. She's a delightful little tap dancing weirdo. She won last week's episode, the first episode. One of my Drag Race theories is that you have to watch the winner of the first week episode because they almost always go to the finale, and a
Mhm.
disproportionate number of them have won because Rue knows what she wants.
That is
Um,
true.
but Toots was also very much on my radar. The other one I'm very curious about, Damien is really watching her. I don't know her name, and this is not me being shady, but I've been calling her Skunk Girl because
Gunk
one of her
Girl.
looks was her in like this outfit with this skunk makeup. Um, and it was a cute look, right? And in her package where they were giving her origin story, she met Rue at some kind of meet and greet thing,
Oh,
and Rue,
Hormona Lisa.
or Mona Lisa, thank you. And Rue immediately
Hmm.
invited her, uh, apparently to audition or be on the show, something. But she's the other one who I'm really curious about. And let me tell you why. So we are now on season 17. I don't know how long the show is going to last, but I feel like I'd be surprised if we got more than 20 seasons because that just, again, it seems like eventually it has to wrap itself up. A lot of the criticism the show has gotten over the years has been around a perceived bias that Rue has had in favor of a certain type of queen. And we did not see queens of Asian descent. We did not see trans queens. And we also have not seen winners with body diversity. And in the last couple of seasons, we got Sasha Colby and Nymphia Wind, both of whom were superlative in their demographic categories and generally as human beings. So I have this theory that this year we're going to see a big girl win
Well,
because I
and
think
Rue does love Lawrence Chaney.
Lawrence Chaney. I
and
do
she's a big
too.
girl.
She absolutely was. Well, and we've seen these things in other franchises, right? It's
Hmm.
just over here. And I'm not saying in Rue's head this is the only one that matters, but I frequently thought, like, for Rue, this is probably the real one. Um, and in as much as this show is Rue anointing, the next generation of queens in his image, I feel like this is what I'm kind of looking at. So Toots definitely does not represent the body diversity category.
No.
But Ramona Lisa does. So I feel like there are some things that are shaking up to be interesting. And then one other note, there's an African American queen whose name also escapes me, but she's friends with Plain Jane,
Mhm.
and
What's her name?
you know who I'm
Corey
talking about, right?
King.
There you go. Ooh, child, she is a troublemaker, a shit
Hmm.
stirrer, a
Uh-uh.
problem for somebody, and I am so here for it. I can't wait to see the confusion
Yeah,
that she's
she
going to
is
bring. She's
messy.
real messy.
And and so like she's Plain's sister?
That's what she said.
Okay. And then you have Lux Noir London's daughter.
That girl is
Also
gorgeous.
so pretty. So
And
pretty.
Trinity's daughter's on too, and she's
Hmm.
also stunning.
Very pretty.
She's
Very
she's very
pretty.
talented. She's not going home next. I'll put
But
it
I'm
like
just saying,
that.
you have like family members, siblings, children, grandchildren,
Grandchildren at
grandnieces,
this point, yeah.
Yes.
of some of the shadiest queens that have ever been on the show.
I
I
was like, it
just
sounds
feel
like a
like
soap opera.
I feel like it's
It
this
feels
season
like
is
one.
fixing to be a mess. I'm just
Okay, your
saying.
forecast, Lee, though, I'll get into this season. I'm gonna get into this season because if you
Yay!
you think a big girl's gonna win, I need to be there for that. Okay.
I I
I'm gonna get
I
into
think
it.
we should be. Yes.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll cover an episode or two later in the season because we only have so many Noah's Arcs to go around. So
That is true. That is true. Now, what is the name of the black girl who came in and she was wearing sort of like the 70s
oh,
bell
her.
bottoms
Oh,
and the
she was
big
really funny.
hair?
What was her name? Oh,
Oh, Anya Nerve.
yes, that's
And her whole thing is like her drag celebrates blackness and black
hmm.
excellence and all that stuff. And she's very funny.
Very funny.
I don't know about the fashions, but she's very
Yeah,
funny.
yeah. Yeah.
So also rooting for her.
Yes, we are absolutely rooting for her, and I am not assuming that, the things that she's shown thus far are necessarily characteristic of the amazingness that we will see in the coming weeks.
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely. Absolutely. Well, so looking forward to that, and I hope we do cover an episode. Maybe like when after Noah's Ark, maybe we do a season.
I would love
Maybe we
that.
just like
I'd
pick
be
a
down for
random
that.
season,
I like that.
Can
not
I also
season
just say
two.
something too? I don't know anything about Katy Perry. She
Mm,
seems like a mean old lady. Was I imagining that? Like she
no.
was just she was really short with everybody. And again, I don't know
Real.
anything about her. I don't know any of her music. I didn't watch her on American Idol. I've seen, you know, great gowns, like that. That's been my relationship with her. But she did not seem like she was feeling it at all, in my opinion.
Was she
Sh
just mean, a little mean? Was she like
A
that?
little,
she was a
a,
little
a
I don't know
little.
nothing
flinty.
about her personality.
I wouldn't go so far as to say mean. I would say a little flinty.
Mm,
But I'll tell you why it was so
There
noticeable
was an
because
edge.
there was definitely
mm.
an edge. And last season, Ariana Grande was like the first episode guest, or maybe that was 2 seasons
I think it
ago.
was
Either
two
way,
seasons ago.
she popped up, right?
Hmm.
Just as sweet as anything. Same thing with Miley Ray Cyrus, like many seasons ago, came on. Like so many of the celebrities who've come on, I guess sort of recognize the relationship between drag and female pop star right now, and have been both appreciative and seemingly really excited, probably notepad in back pocket, like, oh, I'm about to figure out my whole next shtick off of this one episode. I don't know. Katie was just like, all
You
right,
know what
hey y'all, I'm over here.
She reminded me of this moment. Dennis and I, it was New Year's Eve a couple of years ago, and we were at a restaurant. We were sitting at the bar, and the owner of this restaurant is an acquaintance of ours, and so he came out and he was talking to us, and then he introduced us to this other person who was sitting at the bar who was an old friend of his, and so then we started talking to him. Long story short, he was waiting for a date, and she was late because she was trying to find somebody to watch her child or whatever. And so eventually she came, and it was sort of like, ooh, oh my goodness, you know, finally this person we've been talking about for 2 hours has appeared. And he kept getting her name wrong. Like her name was like Linda, and he kept calling her like Jane or whatever.
Oh.
And like the first couple of times, like we were like sort of like listening to their conversation. And he was like, "So anyway, Jane," and she was like, "It's Linda." But anyway, da da da. Da. Like, all right, well, are you ready to go to this party, Jane? It's Linda. Well, are you ready to go to this party? I just called an Uber. You look so great, Jane. And finally, like all three of us at the same time were like, "It's Linda." Her name is Linda. And so then she was like, "I'm not going anywhere with you. I'm not going to," and sort of caused a little bit of a scene in this restaurant. I'm not going anywhere with you. Da, 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 this and that. And he's like, fine, whatever, I don't care. And like goes and gets in like the Uber. And we were all like, ah, oh my goodness. And we were like, oh, Happy New Year. That sucks for you. Like, come over your hugs, like whatever. And she was just like, thank you for supporting me. I love you, Queens. And we both were like, that's not correct, but we'll allow it in this instance. That's how I felt about Katy Perry. Because like you remember when Lady Gaga was on
Hmm.
and
Frustrating.
she was so into it and
Hmm.
she like took all the queens backstage and gave them all very specific and constructive feedback.
Hmm.
Like, you need to do
Hmm.
this, you need to do that. I think you would be, it would benefit you if you thought about this in terms of your makeup and like this in terms of like your fashion. You've got a great attitude or whatever. Katy Perry literally went backstage and was like, you did so great. You just need to do more of that. Ma'am,
Girl.
how is that helpful to anyone?
It
It
sounded
Like,
like she was just there to get her
she was
check.
just there to get a
exactly.
check. She was just there to promote Woman's World, that terrible song.
Take some notes for the upcoming tour and then go.
Yeah. What can I steal?
Let me
Hmm.
take a picture, send that to the stylist. And
And let us not forget that Katy Perry is a Republican and she stole her house from a bunch of nuns, one of whom died in the courtroom while they were suing her. So allegedly.
I I I don't I don't I don't know anything about any of that. So, well,
okay, for
damn.
some reason, the Republican thing makes sense. If I just remember some of her, like, wow, that's making so much sense. Okay, because there's some specific storytelling that she's done in some music videos and with some albums. And, I accepted it because theater kid, yes, moment. Give us a 1950s romance with like your Soldier Bay or whatever. Like, fine, fine. I can feel the fantasy. I can get into the moment, get into a new character, a different era. But no, she was nostalgic for that era.
Yes. Yes.
Oh,
Interesting. I'm like I just opened Wikipedia because I was sort of curious to see a thing or two. And it says that she is the child of a pair of Pentecostal pastors.
Yes. And that.
Um, so I have frequently heard that it is the children of preachers and teachers who are the most problematic. Um, and I'm gonna leave that there.
Well, and I will also say that I was the music editor of a now defunct publication in the late 2000s. And right when her first single, I Kissed a Girl, came out, and it was a gay publication.
Mhm.
Um, and one of our reporters went and interviewed her and sort of gave her the business a bit. Like, do you not understand how sort of problematic that song is? That you're just sort of talking about being performatively queer for your boyfriend? And she was like, what? No, I would never. I don't understand.
Is that what the
So,
song's about? I mean, I have no idea. I don't. I know that the song exists. It's not like I've never heard it, but like I've never listened to it, if you know what I mean.
yes, yes. No,
Uh,
it's essentially about a woman who kisses another woman for the enjoyment of her boyfriend and the other males at the party. But she ended up liking it.
uh, 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 I see.
Yes.
I see. Well, perhaps then it is justified that her entire career has sort of slipped past me unnoticed because that is a bit distant from what my interests in politics are. Great.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, Katy Perry had some fun songs to drink to in the late 2000s, early teens. But
She had
yeah,
some bops. She
she
really
did. She
did.
had some bops.
And even some good little ballads, that she wrote, if you were a little heartbroken, if you had a little breakup. But I'm glad now, I'm glad that now we have the Chapel Roans that we deserve.
Yes. I did say to some because my friends and I were now all in our 40s, and on the group chat a few months ago it came through, what is a chapel roan? And I was like, think about Katy Perry if she was actually queer
Yeah.
and actually fun and had actually done some of like the cool fun things that she like sang about in her song.
And is a better singer.
And is a much better
I mean
singer.
that part, because that certainly was factoring into my choices about what I was allowing into my ears and what I was not allowing into my ears. So,
Was there a Whitney Houston interview where she was like, I listen to singers. I very rarely listen to people who cannot sing. And
There you go.
and that's why I never became a big Katy Perry fan.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like I don't understand it. I mean, I feel like we're getting a little bit uh in that realm where we're gonna start getting people on X uh trashing us. But like I just kind of feel the same way about like like people standing Katy Perry, people standing Miss Swift, um, gorgeous gowns, beautiful gowns. I just the the word mediocrity is coming to mind, and I'm just like, you could have so much seasoning in your life. You could have flavor and color and excitement in your life, and yet you choose you know, not even salt and pepper, but okay.
I feel like Katy Perry and Miss Swift could have and probably should have just had really great careers as pop song writers, people writing the fun intro songs for our favorite reality shows
Oh yeah.
and the pop music that plays when they all go out to the club together and mess
Driving in the car with
ensues.
my
Yeah,
girls.
we're going out tonight. We're going out tonight. Yeah, they could have. They would have ate that. They would have ate
Yes.
that and would have been
Yes.
quietly rich. Quietly rich. Just feel like they missed out.
Well, now they're very loudly rich, so
Right.
I'm sure they're I'm sure they're doing good.
Yeah. Or rather, we missed out on.
We missed
Yes.
out.
We missed
Yeah.
out. We missed out. Ooh, well, this got spicy, y'all. Speaking of seasoning. And it's only gonna get spicier. And we'll be right back with the rest of our show.
A woman to men,
Man to woman,
from penis to vagina. Is it for you?
for me,
What would you like to know about it, mother?
I want to know it all. What is the protocol, the techniques and the risks? How many operations? How much time do you need?
All right. And we are back. Now, if you thought that got spicy, oof. Go get yourself a glass of milk. So, as we all know, it is award season in Hollywood right now, and a couple of weeks ago, the Golden Globes happened, and there's one movie that is making some waves in terms of when we're talking about representation. I don't know if you all have seen Emilia Perez on Netflix, but it won the best musical or comedy award. Um, I gave it the old college. You know how I don't like fiction. I tried so hard. Are you all familiar?
Mm.
Essentially, it is a movie by a French director, um, as a trans woman in the lead role. It's the story of a uh, takes place in Mexico. The story of the leader of a cartel who is a trans woman, wants to transition, hires a lawyer played by Zoe Saldana to facilitate the transition. The story cuts to 4 years later, and she was married to Selena Gomez, and they had a couple of kids. And before the transition, made sure that she had all the money in the world. Everything was taken care of, but then, decides that she misses her family, and so rehires Zoe Saldana to bring the Selena Gomez and their kids back to Mexico. And then whole bunch of stuff happens, and it's kind of crazy and all over the place. Um, and it's a musical. And the
Did not
music,
know that. What?
yes, and the music is not good. I'm just gonna say that. Um, it's wildly bad. I don't know if
No.
you have seen any of the viral. There's one scene in the movie where there's a song where Zoe goes to Thailand to speak to a doctor about uh, transition, the surgery and everything that would need to happen. And like it's literally, I would like to talk to you about sex change operation. Vagina to penis, vagina to penis. It- Penis to vagina. And and this particular scene has gone viral on TikTok with just people just like staring into the camera like because it's crazy. It's actually crazy. Somebody was like, "This is what I think musicals sound like to people that hate musicals," and it's like, listen. But anyway, the controversy that's been stirred up is not only is it like yeah. But it's, by this French director. It's a story that takes place in Mexico. The characters are all supposed to be Mexican. None of them are played by Mexican actors. None of them, the Spanish is like none of them are using a Mexican accent. Like the director has said publicly that he felt like he didn't really need to go to Mexico or really sort of study Mexican culture.
Hmm.
And then, of course, also the trans part of the storyline. Um, it's wonderful that, this trans actress, and I can't, Carla Maria Gasson um, that is getting all this awards attention and, that's super great. But also like when there is a year where there has been so many movies that have been directed by trans directors telling trans stories. 2024 has been a really great year for that. Was primarily like I saw the TV Glow. That this is the movie that's where, literally you have characters like pushing gurneys around, like going like penis to vagina. Like this is the movie that's like the front runner for Best Picture. Like that's crazy. So there's just been a lot of discourse on the internet and social media, especially from trans activists and like the entire country of Mexico. It's just like, what? I'm so sorry, what? Um, but
Mexico
this
must be so tired of us.
I'm so tired of us. Gulf of America. Girl, get the fuck. Anyway, um, but what was so interesting to me because we were sort of talking about having this conversation about representation and, especially artists of color, um, you know, creating art works of art that are detrimental to other folks of color and frankly anti-black. And so it was very interesting to me then that Jeremy O. Harris this week came out and basically, and I'm paraphrasing, was just like, hey, all of you people who don't like Emilia Perez, y'all need to please shut your mouths and just be happy that we have any representation at all. Because if we didn't have this and it wasn't getting awards recognition, then, and it wasn't successful, then they wouldn't be making trans stories at all. They wouldn't be making stories that highlight the Mexican experience at all. And like, if you get loud enough, like they're gonna stop doing it. So like just be thankful for the little crumbs you have. And if you don't like this representation, then maybe you'll like the next one. But like you all complaining means that there probably isn't gonna be a next one. And I'm just like, huh? So anyway, I thought that was a way to perhaps get us into this conversation.
So I haven't, I'm like literally reading Jeremy's quote right
Hmm.
now so I can respond in a halfway intelligent way to it because I hadn't heard that. I mean, I've heard a bit about the film. I didn't I the a huge part of what is going to make me watch a movie or not watch a movie is the cast list. And
Hmm.
this wasn't a cast list that screamed, Lee, turn this on. So I hadn't really gotten that close to the movie, although I was hoping that it was a positive portrayal of the communities so that we could have another one of those.
Lee,
That, yeah,
Lee, my
yeah,
love,
yeah,
Zoe Saldana is the best singer.
yeah. I mean, this is why I didn't turn the motherfucker on. Like, I mean, you've heard me talk about like approximately three movie musicals that between them had Beyonce, Jennifer Hudson, Dinah Ross, Lena Horne, and Liza Minnelli cast. Like
Mhm.
I'm looking for something very specific here. The other thing though that I think might be interesting about Jeremy Harris's comments might be because Slave Play, when it was on Broadway and it scandalized a generation of theater goers, it was
Mhm.
nominated for all those Tonys and didn't win any. And I was very curious if that was like like one of those weird color purple. We're nominating this because we recognize that it's good, but we're too thrown off by it to actually vote for it, or if it were some kind of other weird moment of sending a message about, you know, we're not putting our stamp of approval on it. Like I wasn't quite sure how to read that. But I'm just kind of connecting these two moments about a perspective on awards because what I absolutely agree about is I do think industries look for reasons not to acknowledge the contributions of artists of color or other underrepresented groups very, very frequently, right? And I think when there are these narratives around, I don't know, these narratives where it sort of surfaces that there is a critique from the community that the movie is meant to represent, that it like has this exaggerated effect on the award. So the other thing that I heard about The Color Purple from like the 80s, and I don't know if this is true because it was barely alive, but they were saying that because there was a very negative response from certain mainstream black male leaders about the Color
Mhm.
Purple film, portraying black men in a negative light. There were, all these Academy voters that did not want to vote for it. I don't know if I believe that, in 1984 or 1985, the random Academy Award voters would have taken their cue from how Jesse Jackson felt about this movie. Like, I actually don't know if I believe that, but I think that this as a narrative, the fact that it's still present 40 years later is discussion worthy in and of itself.
One thing that's really interesting to me in this discussion too is, I mean, one, these big awards like the Golden Globes, like the Oscars, how much stake we should be putting in them anyway. That's always a
Yes.
thing. Um, of course, it matters to be recognized by your peers and by your industry, but anyway. But then there's also, to me, I don't know, when people are like, we shouldn't be critiquing this publicly because then it won't get made anymore. We won't see it anymore. Um, I kind of go, who will stop making these kinds of things? Who won't be seeing them?
Ding, ding, ding.
Mhm.
Because me, a queer and trans person who is actually in community with other queer and trans people, and specifically a lot of artists, I know that there is brilliant work being made all the time, regardless of what narrative is happening. Does it help when there's a trend and there's a lot more resources going our way? Sure. Yeah. But I I just reject the idea that we have to accept everything because this is one of our own and this is no, we even have disagreements in intra-communally about stuff that isn't public and are
All
like,
the
we don't like
time.
that. That was trash. Like or I actually think that was not that great in terms of representation. That happens with films smaller than this. That happens with just within communities. And yet the work still gets made. Like we still enjoy each other's art all the time. So yeah, for me, that's just like not good enough. That's just not good enough of a reason. I can't come to anything more nuanced than that. But to me, yeah, I don't know. I just don't see the point in being dishonest or pretending that we like a thing when we don't.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you on that. And I'm also one of the folks that doesn't that hasn't really jumped on this bandwagon around we should stop having reviews of films and plays and albums and that kind of thing. I actually think the critical conversation is really useful because I think stuff isn't going to get better if there isn't some kind of critique when stuff is off, right? And the other piece, and we talked a lot about this maybe 2 cycles ago, around what the value of some of those big awards are, especially when they are so consistent in not acknowledging Black people, right? Like it should leave a question about if the Oscars should mean as much as they do, if the specificity with which people approach voting isn't speaking to excellence as much as it's speaking to some other kind of acknowledgement. Like I really think a lot of those big guild awards are about welcome to the club more than, this is an acknowledgement of, yours was the greatest single accomplishment within this category in a year.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think,
Mhm.
when I was a kid, I used to sort of valorize the Oscars, like, oh my gosh, and I wanted to, win an Oscar someday and all of those things. And my mom and I would go out and like, go watch all of the Oscar movies, even the ones that were wildly inappropriate for my age. Like, I'm like 11 years old, like, what's your favorite movie? And all the other kids are like, Batman, Jurassic Park. I'm like Secrets and Lies by Mike Lee. Um, but yeah, at growing up and sort of being tangentially sort of in this industry, as somebody who's sort of commenting on what I'm seeing. Yeah, no, exactly. It's just like you're just watching, people just sort of be uh, inducted into a club. It feels like, why are we here? What are we what are we adding to this conversation? And I feel like all that we can really add is our criticism, is this, notion that like some of these products that are being made are actively, they're here to represent the trans community or represent the Black community, but they're actually doing like active harm and they're like not good and they're bad and it's okay to say all of those things. And I know you both had, other examples of artists that you felt like were sort of in this boat. And you mentioned Kenya Barris. Paige, and it's like I just kind of feel like everyone's mileage may vary,
Mm.
Mhm.
with how much they sort of enjoy or don't enjoy. But I think, especially, you watch some of his work and see some of the accolades that he's received, and it's just sort of like, oh, you're being invited into a club. This isn't about sort of a qualitative assessment of your work.
Mhm.
But
Right.
maybe, oh God, am I gonna get sued?
But I also think like, okay, a interesting thing with I think Kenya Barris's work, and could also be the case with this Emilia Perez, is what is groundbreaking to people outside your community.
Yes.
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
Yes.
Like the most groundbreaking stuff about queer and trans people and stuff that I will remember for the rest of my life and that has actually changed me as a human, most of it has not been on a big screen.
Yeah.
It is not won a Grammy, it is not won a Golden Globe, it has not won a Tony. Like, yeah, most of them have not. Same thing with Black stuff.
Mhm.
Stuff that
Mhm.
features Black people, we all know what it means to like. I'm glad the word like Black famous has
Yes.
that term has risen up. The stuff that is the most groundbreaking or ends up being the most meaningful or like explores a conversation that like you, I don't know, that's just really refreshing or really makes you see things in a different way, it usually doesn't get the awards. Like I don't know. Especially to when we get to talking about Kenya Barris,
Mhm.
I kind of want to be like, who's really enjoying your work?
Mhm.
Who is giving it the accolades? Who is
Well, I think
feeling
we're
especially
here.
seen by this?
I think we're
I
here. Talk on it.
I have questions. I just have questions. I got observations. I see patterns. All I said is I don't personally within my circle hear people saying that what Black AF, Black as fuck just gave them was just whoa, blew their minds and had conversations on race and class that they had never heard before. Oh my gosh, what does happen when a Black man makes it, starts to feel disconnected? Like it just it's not happening in a unique way. And also I'm getting again, this is Kenya Barris specifically. I have things to say. It's not exploring things in a way that's new to us.
Right.
So then I'm like, who is it for? You're letting other people in on our world. You're not trying to really explore our world deeper. You're just trying to open it up to other people, to white people, to middle class people, and do something that like affirms them. And I mean, I know we'll get to talk about Tyler Perry eventually, but again, I'm just like, who is this advancing a conversation for? Like, Kenya Barris is having a lot of conversations that affirm maybe some of his experiences with class, with interracial relationships, um, with colorism or I ain't even gonna say colorism because I don't think he's talking about it from the perspective of
Mhm.
people who experience the most marginalization from colorism. He's not talking about it from the perspective of people who are dark skinned.
Mhm.
He's talking about it from the perspective of people who experience more of the privilege. Um, yeah, yeah. My initial rants about Kenya Barris, the depth, the depth is not there for the people that he's supposedly supposed to be making this for.
And I think it's that piece of being able to like connect what it seems like the audience is supposed to be sort of based on how the show is put forth by the network and how they're marketing it. And then you watch it and then you might get a very different spin on it and think, huh, from what they said this was going to be, I thought I was the target demo and maybe I'm not. And then
Mhm.
on top of it, you have like the additional layers of like holding someone's other work or their public comments against the show, right? And then trying to figure out what is your project, right? Like, because I know exactly what you're saying about Kenya, and I've always had like a hard time making it all make sense in my head and wanting to give a certain amount of the benefit of the doubt because I know that like everything is going to be diffused through a network. And I know how my work has come out looking after it's been produced by other people in some instances, really feeling like this was not what we talked about this being. But then there are the people on the other side, like Tyler Perry, who, because Tyler is producing and writing and directing and distributing and maybe even designing some of these beautiful wigs he finds to put people in himself, like it doesn't it's a very different kind of clarity I feel like I have on Tyler because he also talks a lot about I am making I'm making things for a particular Black audience, right? And I am very curious if that Black audience that he thinks he's making it for, if it really, really resonates with them. I feel like I don't know a lot of those people because most of the people who I know are really put off by his work, like really put off by his work because of the uneven portrayals of queer people, specifically gay Black men. Like I feel like gay Black men get a very weird treatment in his work. Um, Middle class Black people, I have never quite seen someone who so consistently seems like they have an axe to grind with the Black middle class. It like sort of across the board, not just like the specific politics of respectability, Black people in Southern churches, but just like conceptually middle class Black people, places, and things. I mean, poor Lynn Whitfield. Like I have never seen an actress get such a bad, you know, script to sell in a movie. And then you have something like The 6888, which I just watched over break. And I wanted to watch it because I like historical Black films. And like none of the typical Tyler Perry politics showed up in this movie. And it made me think, so one, you are capable of doing this kind of movie that is a very standard, historical biopic. Like there wasn't anything unusual about it. It just was a very solid performance from Kerry Washington. But it didn't have any of the Tylerisms, right? Like I didn't feel triggered watching any part of it because it was like he was just making a movie and not wanting to like exercise whichever demons may be informing like the very weird politics of all of the Medea movies. So I feel very confused about who Tyler Perry is and what the project is because all of a sudden I felt like he made a movie that was a little bit more for me after like literally problematizing me as a thing that exists in the other 30 movies he's made.
Well, problematizing you and publicly saying, if you feel like you're being problematized, shut up.
Right. Right. No, that's why I haven't been speaking on it because he clearly said my opinion wasn't sought. So,
I mean, there's a thing that I'm seeing here though with both Tyler and Kenya's work. It makes me wonder about them making work that is like too close to their own identities
mm,
and situations. And it's one of those things where like when almost someone is, it's like they're trying to, I mean, we all do this through our art, like try to work out our stuff through our
Mhm.
art, but there is a particular way that they
mhm,
do it narrowly and with not a whole lot of self-awareness.
mhm.
Not
Yep.
a whole lot of
Yep.
self-awareness and trying to like work out these issues that are communal ones.
Mhm.
And so then when they do it poorly, that reflects communally as well. You know, like maybe I feel like they're both better when they're right, when they're doing stuff that ain't got much to do with them.
I think you're exactly right.
I think that makes a lot of sense.
And it makes me very curious to hear your take on this because I feel like it feels like there's not enough self-consciousness that goes into making the stuff that's close to them. So like I feel like Spike Lee also made a lot of films that felt very close to his politic. And even in the instances I was really not agreeing with something or the colorism, especially around the women he cast, was hitting me like too hard in some of the films. I always felt like he was in on it. Like there was no sense of
Yes.
denial, right? And because he told us in school days, I am going to let this play out right
Yeah.
in front of you, right?
Yeah.
And not quite getting that same sense where like I feel like Tyler is actively trying to hide whatever the real politics are. Like he's actively saying, I'm doing something different. Pay no attention to what I'm doing because I'm telling you I'm not doing it. It's like, but I'm watching it. Like I can see it. Does this make sense to y'all? Like I'm trying to work this out as we're talking.
Absolutely, it does. It's making sense to me because I'm trying to work it out as I'm talking too, like, with Tyler and with Kenya, because it's like he does this thing where he's just like, it's so hard being in these interracial relationships or having a light-skinned wife, and it's just so hard. And because it's just him, he's completely missing the part about like it's not about that. That's not like the challenge that you're facing, that your characters are facing, or that you have faced. It has to do with the politic behind it.
Yes.
And people questioning your politic because of your choices and because of the real impacts that it has around the black people on the black people around you.
Mhm.
That's what people are questioning.
There you go.
Like, nobody cares that you got a light-skinned wife. We do care about you being anti-black.
Right.
There you go.
That's what we're gonna care about. Nobody's gonna care that you made it, that you made all this money off of film and writing, that you're rich now. Wonderful. What
That's
people
wonderful.
do care about is you then being classist or looking down on regular black folk
Mhm.
and not recognizing your
Mhm.
privilege, and that's what we care about.
And that's all we care about.
That's
Like
all we care about.
that right. No, I think I think that's exactly it. And I feel like the kind of power that Tyler in particular would have, because I feel like he's a very compelling storyteller, obviously. And I'll be honest, I've actually seen one of the Medea tours live. This was, I don't know, the better part of
Yes.
20 years ago. And I was compelled. I was compelled by the fact that I was in a theater with only Black people um, here in New York City, right? And I was also really compelled by the way Tyler could hold everybody on stage as Medea. Like it really was spellbinding to watch. And it was when I was first hearing about him, and I was very interested in him because I had read an interview where he talked about why he wouldn't do Broadway despite having it offered to him so many times, because he was like, I am doing theater for me and my people. I was like, hey, I want to see this. And then I did see it. It was really funny. And I realized I wasn't one of the people he was doing theater for, but that was fine. But if he actually were telling a different version of the truth in what was happening on stage around the politics of masculinity, around the politics of class, and this intersection that causes so much strife for all of us in the Black community, I think Tyler Perry would be a very different kind of a figure for all of us. But there's something that doesn't ring true when he's saying it's not happening, and you can watch it and you can see it, right? Like I'm like, no, like what is with all of this particular kind of torment around, you know, middle class Black women and decision making and working class Black men and like we are the honest and only true options, even though you put Shamar in that horrible wig. Like there's so many things about it that I just want the real conversation.
No, and dark-skinned black men always being the
Right,
villain.
right,
Yeah.
right.
But it's
Yeah,
interesting
I
because
guess I
like
forgot that part. Yeah, he's
mhm.
really been coming for me.
hmm
Whew.
But it's interesting because I think in a lot of his public statements as well, he would listen to what you're saying and say, well, you're the one who's being classist. And it's just like, mm, I don't know
Yeah, not
about
this
that.
time.
I don't know about that.
If at some
And
point
then,
I've been guilty of it, it is not in this analysis, sir.
No, definitely
mm-mm.
not.
I mean, there's just ways like a lot of Christian morality specifically makes it into
Yeah.
his work, which is like, hey, do you? And also, if that's your audience, cool.
Cool.
But people do got the right to feel a way about it when you are constantly punishing your characters who are sexually promiscuous or open in any way, like I'm allowed to feel a way about that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
people
and
are gonna have things to say.
I feel like this sort of mental gymnastics that had to happen to create the filmic version of For Colored Girls out of the poem is something else. And like I wasn't sure if I wanted to bring up Tyler at all in this conversation because I didn't know that I would be able to avoid talking about this.
I try to forget that film exists.
Oh my God, oh my God. Yeah. I mean, because there's so many extraordinarily talented Black actresses in that movie who were either underutilized, misutilized, or just given bizarre things to say. Poor Janet Jackson. Like just it was such a it I didn't understand how you got from one to the other, right? And you've heard me say before on here, I don't think musicals typically make good films. Like I think musical theater is a thing that doesn't
Mhm.
convert to the film world very easily. And I think choreo poems are much more complicated than a musical in terms of making a sort of linear narrative film out of it. Like it just wasn't the right source material. Like none of the poetry could sing in the movie because of it. Literally except what Loretta Devine did. And I think that's just because she probably is a very different kind of a theater to film actress than most people. But none of it worked for me. And I couldn't figure out why that even was something he wanted to do with that piece. Like, if you love that piece, how did you get to that movie from that? That's what I want to know. I want one of y'all to answer it.
I wish I had answers. I wish I did. I can't.
I
And you know what? I've been trying to go just a little easy on Tyler, but you reminding me of For Colored Girls. It's lit a new fire. And I'm reminded that I can actually never forgive him. I'm a no, we have beef forever. I'm sorry. We have beef forever. Because how do you take the sacred holy text of Mother and Intozaki Shange and turn it into that? How
Don't
did you
take
do
that.
that? And I'm also pissed because now there's a whole generation of people who are
Hmm.
not familiar with the choreo poem, but they've
Hmm.
seen the movie and they think that's the story.
And they think that's what it is.
I've met several
Exactly.
people who actually think that,
Yeah.
who are just like, wait, that's not what the play is like at all. I'm like,
Oh my goodness, we have truly left the children behind. Oh my
Truly,
God.
truly.
terrible, terrible. Nope, I got beef with Tyler forever. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm actually not sorry. Never mind. I'm not sorry.
I'm glad I could resurface that for you because I actually feel like this sort of righteous anger, we need to hold it close and talk about it because
Yes.
this is the only way that we're not going to keep getting saddled with a bunch of stuff that we don't want to see because it doesn't represent us. And because frankly, theater artists in particular are not agentive in being able to bring their works to the screen. They're in most cases are going to be dependent on somebody else to do an interpretation. And for every one of those filmic interpretations that sort of opens the universe up, like Moonlight, which I think partially could happen because Terrell was involved, right? But like that was like a brilliant way of thinking about how to make something on the page expand on the screen. And that's what I'm hoping to see more of and a little bit less of let me just play in the face of this probably no longer living playwright and make a thing of their life's work that basically works at cross purposes with whatever they thought they were accomplishing when they wrote it in the first place. I don't think that's okay. Like I really
And
don't.
and that's what makes me crazy about this argument. Like, well, just be happy with what you get. Which is
Yeah.
like, but we've seen that it is possible to create pieces that are transcendent and beautiful and actually like elevate. the material that they're based on and are moving and are important to our community and represent us in beautiful ways. So like why would I not call out with my righteous anger that I am gonna hold close to here in 2025? Why would I not call that out? Because like we've seen the effects that doing it right can have.
Yeah,
You're just mad because you didn't do it and we're calling you out.
exactly.
Mm.
Hmm.
So we are going to on the show. Sorry, Kenya. Sorry, Tyler. Sorry, Jeremy. We're gonna keep our righteous anger
But y'all
close
are
to
welcome
our
on the
vest.
show, either as a panel or as individuals. We would love to chat about this with you. And if we are if we got this wrong, then set us straight. Come on the show and let's talk about it. We'd love to
There you
have you.
go. There you
Yeah.
Why
go.
do I feel like we said before, specifically maybe 2 years ago or something, that we would love to have Jeremy O'Harris on the show?
We
We
did.
We
said
did say
that.
that and
We
We
meant
did
said
say
it.
that.
that.
That
And
still
we meant it.
stands. I
Yeah.
stand that too. Yeah.
Well, there you go. Well, we're going to keep having this conversation. And yeah, if you have any thoughts or you want to let us know what you think, you can email us at the score podcast 2.0. That's it, at gmail.com. Or you can reach out to us on Instagram or Blue Sky at the Score Pod. But I think we're going to put in a pin in it right there. I'm sure we will have this conversation several more times before the the end of our time here on the internet. But for now, I think it's time to move on to Pure Black Joy. What do y'all think?
I agree. I think it's
Let's
time.
do it. We'll be right back. Pure Black Joy. Woohoo! All right, ladies and germs, we are back with Pure Black Joy, PBJ, a little snack for your soul. This is the segment where we celebrate all of the Black people, places, music, art, culture, food that is making us happy this week. So, who would like to go first? I'll go first. So I just want to shout out a friend of the podcast, our old friend Bob the Drag Queen.
Hey.
Yes, if you are a fan of our Lincoln Center era art class or you don't know about it, go back and listen to the series finale. I was gonna say season finale, but no. Where Bob was the guest on our series finale. And they were incredible and so smart and so funny. But the new season of my favorite new show, The Traitors, just started last night. Bob is on the cast. And spoiler alert, if you don't want to hear, skip ahead 30 seconds, was selected as one of the traitors. And I cannot wait to have a season full of Bob the Drag Queen shading people and then murdering them on my television. It's gonna be so fun. I cannot wait. I when Alan Cumming touched their shoulder, I was just like, I'm gonna get my whole life this whole season. And so excited to have Bob back on my television and already making me laugh and scream. So congratulations to Bob.
Yay.
Congrats, Bob. Whose new book is also out too.
Yes. Yes,
Mm,
absolutely. So everybody go grab that.
yes. Well, I'll go next because I also have just a cute little tidbit from a friend of the show. Um, One of my pure black joys is, I'm really trying to stay in my go see live music bag,
Mhm,
just
mhm.
because I ain't in New Orleans no more. Don't mean there's like nothing here for me to go see. So I'm gonna get out in the snow. And specifically on February 6th, I am gonna go to a little jazz club called Berlin where our
Oh,
good friend of the show, Janata Petrus, will be
oh.
performing and opening up for the bassoonist composer Joy Gaidry. But
Hmm.
Janata will be opening up and performing as her stage name, Nanny Neptune.
Okay.
Yes, doing a duet, poetry and piano performance. And I'm so excited to go and see her in her element.
Oh.
So, if you're going to be in the Twin Cities area, again, that's February 6th at Berlin. It should be a good, very Black time.
Yes,
It
absolutely.
sounds
Well,
like it.
congratulations,
Mhm.
Janata, who
Yeah.
coincidentally was the guest on our series premiere of
Yes.
art class. The
And
Alpha
Joy
and
is
the
one of my
Omega.
favorite bassoonists. So that sounds lovely.
Wonderful. I am just getting familiar and I am very excited to see her now too. Them, see them now too.
Oh, right. I have a fun little tidbit from the state of South Carolina. Um, so you know how in South Carolina they did that whole Civil War thing and they kind of seemed like they hung on to it all these years later. Outside of the South Carolina State House famously is a statue of a person called Pitchfork Ben Tillman, who was one of the uh, segregationists who came about post Reconstruction, who was really responsible for dialing back the vast majority of the civil rights that have been won by Black people during Reconstruction. And there he stands right outside of South Carolina State House, sort of reminding folks of that lovely um, set of activities that he led. However, they have seen fit to vote to put up a statue directly across from him of one of my favorite figures from Black history, Robert Smalls. Robert Smalls was a man who, at the age of around 23, he was enslaved in South Carolina, and he worked on one of the Confederate steamships. And one night after the Confederates had all, gone to bed or whatever, he stole the ship. He filled it with members of his family and using the hand signals that he had learned from watching the Confederates, he took that steamship and sailed it right over to the Union forces, surrendered that ship, and gained freedom for himself and his family members, and subsequently had a bit of a political career before uh, Pitchfork sort of wiped out the ability of statewide elected office for Black people for a really, really, really long time. So I am really excited that he is getting his due and that Pitchfork statue will have to stare at Robert Smalls' statue for the rest of ever. Feels fitting.
There you go. I didn't know that story.
Me neither. It's so heroic
Yes.
sounding. Like
Yeah.
the scene in my mind was very cinematic. Like, wow.
Well, maybe somebody should make a movie about that
There
instead of
you
some of this
go.
nonsense that getting movies made about lately.
Tyler, Kenya,
Well,
Robert Smalls. All right, well, I think that's going to do it for this episode of The Score. Thank you so much for joining us. As always, please subscribe, leave us a review if you like what you heard and you want to help us out. Tell your friends. Tyler, Kenya, I probably won't, but maybe. It's a good conversation. It's a good conversation. But yeah, follow us on Instagram and Blue Sky and all of those places. But before we go, any words of wisdom for the folks out there? This lovely 2025 first
Yeah.
episode.
I think people should remember to stay hydrated. We talk a
Yes,
lot about that in the summer, but it's really, really, really dry right now
it's
too.
so dry.
Yeah. So drink your water so you don't fall out.
I was just saying to my friend Tom yesterday, like, I feel like I can't drink enough water.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's a good one. Stay hydrated, everybody. Stay thirsty, y'all. No, I'm just kidding. And rest in peace to the Vivian.
Oh,
That was so
yeah.
sad.
That
So
was sad. 32, so young.
Oh, so young, so young. But we will be back next week with, I think we're going to start season 2 of Noah's Ark.
Yeah.
Yes! All right, well, we will see you back here in 2 weeks for that. And until then, be easy, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Tyra Sanchez is trash.